After everybody complained, Microsoft has unveiled the new Xbox dashboard. Microsoft announced last year in 2022 that in 2023 they would be giving a new refresh look to the Xbox dashboard. And for a while, Microsoft was testing an updated design and nobody really seemed to like it. So today, Microsoft is showing off the updated dashboard, which you can see here. Now, this new dashboard is familiar yet very much optimized, if that was a word, optimized for what people with the feedback that Microsoft had been giving. So let's just kind of jump back through. When Microsoft originally launched the Xbox Series X and S, this is the dashboard that you saw. It was just like this. Now, there have been some minor updates some people will point out from here, but this was the launch dashboard. And then last year and into the early first half of this year, Microsoft was testing this design, which nobody seemed to like because, hey, they're bigger tiles, they cover up your background, and it just wasn't the direction that everybody had wanted to go. And so Microsoft, to their credit, listened to feedback, and now we land here with an updated design that feels familiar because, look, they retained that larger icon for the leftmost icon, which is probably your most recently played, but then they shrunk everything down, notably except what it looks like besides the advertisements. You can see that Elite controller there in the bottom right. That looks like it's roughly the same size, but all the game art icons do appear smaller and they're pushed down lower to the bottom of the screen. And I think it looks much better. And I think this is more than likely the direction they will end up heading. And I think that the feedback was listened. I can't quite tell if the corners are a bit more rounded than the original design that is more of a modern feature or modern Windows 11 styling. But either way, I think this is a good step in the right direction. So what is Microsoft officially saying about this update in the blog post? First off, it is rolling out today, I believe, to both Alpha and Alpha Skip Ahead users will be able to download this and get started with the experience today. So they're saying the new version of Home in the blog post provides easy navigation to your library, the Microsoft Store, Xbox Game Pass search, and settings at the very top of your home by introducing a new quick access menu. They say it also simplifies the layout and makes more space for you to see your background by reducing the size of some of the tiles and moving them to the bottom of the screen. Those some tiles meaning your most recently played games. They said they're also adding a responsive game art feature to the update that updates the default background and shows off beautiful art associated with each title when you hover over its tile. So that's interesting. So right now it's on Ori, but it sounds like you're going to have an option where if you go over to Forza or Halo, the background will actually update dynamically to that game art content, which is actually a pretty nice feature. I like that. As long as it's not too jarring of an update, maybe they have a nice soft blend or something that moves in between, or that maybe it doesn't update until you sit on a tile for a second, because you can imagine if you scroll to the right in this example that things could get a little wonky and a little visually out of whack. But either way, that looks like a super neat feature. I hope it does dynamic art too, because that would also be nice too. And they said also, we have updated that the opened My Games and Apps, the first tile in the second row, to let you know when there's something that's new or needs your attention. So it looks like they're going to make it easier to tell if you have a controller update outstanding, a game update, or potentially even a console update with some sort of on-dashboard notification. Which you can also potentially see in the top right corner there with that settings. And so that as long as they don't abuse it, which let's be honest, probably will at some point, don't abuse that sort of notification. Totally cool with that. I think that this is definitely a step in the right direction. That quick access menu at the top is nice, clean, modern, and minimalistic, and doesn't sort of burden the dashboard with unnecessary content. So this is the first look at the new dashboard. Once I get it on my box upstairs, my Series S, I will do a video. It's a little bit of a deeper dive once we're all cool with it. But there you go. There's the first look. My question to you, dear listener, is this a good step in the right direction, or should Microsoft have gone more aggressively? The fun thing is if you look at this demo, or this concept from Clobro, or Bob, I should say, from back when Microsoft initially announced this update, I should say, yeah, this update. Sometimes it's even hard for me to tell. He's like, look, they should do this. And I feel like they're maybe not that far off. If you look at what they actually ship versus this style, I got to be honest, I think potentially I like Microsoft's more. This was a good direction at the time, but I think there's a little bit more here. It would be nice if you could actually scroll down a little bit and get rid of those bottom icons completely. But I think this is one of those things where you're going to have to just relate and say, look, we're going to meet in the middle. Microsoft has its requirements where things must be visible and they need to get that Game Pass stuff in there because, again, that is their priority, is to get all that stuff out. But when you compare it to this style, which you can kind of see the middle ground here, it's like, look, just scroll it down so it looks like this. I think Microsoft did a good job. I think that this is going to be a much better direction. I look forward to getting it onto my box and trying it out. I want to know from you guys though, like, is this enough? Like, what else would you like to see Microsoft do here? Are there too many tiles? Like, one of my concerns primarily right now is potentially those icons are kind of small. They are kind of small. What's it going to look like when you're sitting on a couch from a couple feet away? Not quite sure. The other update, which we don't know and Microsoft didn't talk about, so I'm guessing it's not in there. We don't know if this is HDR yet, right? That's been an ongoing complaint of mine about the dashboard, is that it's not an HDR display, or it's not an HDR compliant image or background or whatever. So that when you switch between content that is HDR and isn't HDR, you get that turn to black screen. If you have an HDR display, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So Microsoft did not clarify if that is an update. Let's take the optimistic point of view here and like, look, Microsoft isn't going to roll that out until they've locked it down, right? They want to lock it down and then they'll introduce HDR. That's my fingers crossed, going to let me sleep well tonight experience. And then they'll roll it out and they'll make, big noise and celebration. Because I would honestly probably do an entire video to it. Maybe not an entire video, but whatever, like a shorter subject. They did it! And then just celebrate and run off into the sunset. So, what's missing here? Is there anybody seeing anything that's missing? They haven't talked if they've made any updates to the guide, right? The guide is something that we all use frequently if you're jumping in and out of parties. What I would love to see here is potentially more of like online activity. But again, like, it's a balance. Like, I've got to be realistic that like, okay, I want to see my friends and see who's online without having to open the guide. But then at the same time, I'm being contradictory because that would then cover up more of the background here from Ori. And so you kind of just got to balance it out. I think the ad, I can't tell, is that just one singular ad? I'm not sure if that Game Pass one is an ad or not, whatever you want to call it. If this user has Game Pass, definitely not, but then if it might say sign up for Game Pass, and then that would be an ad. So I guess it depends where you are in the subscription world. Potentially could be annoying to some people who are not currently paying for that. But I think when you look at from, like, we're going to jump from this, most users will jump from this. Remind you that most people are not alpha insiders testing stuff. So they'll jump from this experience to this experience. I think that is a very easy move. I don't think there's going to be any jarring experience that's really going to annoy people too much, or say, I can't find my X, Y, or Z game or something like that, because it looks still like fresh and familiar, which is actually a terminology here. And you can really see what Microsoft removed is if you take out that search in the bottom right there in the store Game Pass community thing on the left side, they really just kind of smushed it down and then adjusted some of the tiles. And that took them 8 months to figure out. Okay, that's maybe a little rude because this one at least does include the functionality that if you hover over, you get the dynamic backgrounds and all that other stuff. So I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. Once I get my hands on it, I'll have a video and probably a little bit more on the impression side once I've actually, scrolled through this thing to see if there's any other nuggets hidden deep down within the OS. But until that time, my friends, make sure to keep it subscribed here because the only BS on this channel is me.